Welcome, everyone. You are in day 2 of the Washington Organic Seed Summit. It is February 16th, 2023. This meeting is being recorded, and all the sessions that don't include personal sharing or networking are also going to be made available on our website after the event. This is an online conference hosted by the WSU Food Systems, the program that I work for. My name is Abba Kaiser. I use she and they pronouns. I'm tuning in from traditional Makah, S'Klallam, and Chimicum lands on the Olympic Peninsula. And I'm really excited to be working with our partners at the Organic Seed Alliance to help produce this event. We'll hear from them in just a moment. And another partner for this production is also Viva Farms. And so just a big welcome and thank you to you for being here. We want to hear from you. Please introduce yourself, your pronouns if you feel comfortable using them, and your farm, business, or organization name, where you're located and what ancestral land you're on, and your current favorite seed. If you want to put this in the chat, it'll help us get a sense of who's in the room. Thanks for joining us on the second day. And I know a lot of you were already here yesterday. We had such an amazing day listening at the top of the conference to Miss Benita Adib. And unfortunately, Benita can't make the first session today, but we'll hear a little bit about some of the opportunities that she knows about for the first session. So just wanted to give a big shout out to her and all the work that she's been doing, and to all of our speakers, Marco Colby, Nicholas Engelbert, Katie Miller, Ellen Green, and to our facilitators as well, who we'll hear from in just a moment. So we're not going to go through these whole agreements again, but I just wanted to remind everyone that we're trying to create a space here that feels supportive and generative. And if you have any concerns about incidents or things that are said during this conference, you can always reach out to Kathleen McCluskey. Her email is at the bottom, and I think Rebecca is also going to be posting this information in the chat. But go easy on yourself. Zoom is not the easiest format, especially for multiple hours. So please just pay attention to yourselves and take care of yourselves and what you need, and know that you have our support in doing that. But that the intention is to be present and engaged here. So we want to thank our summit partners briefly, and just a big thank you. There are so many people behind the scenes who make this whole network and project tick. So a big thank you. And we're going to just briefly review the program before we get started. We have an update to the program this morning. Benita Adib, as I mentioned, is not able to join us, but we do have Sarah Klieger from Adaptive Seeds, who's joining our contracting session this morning. We'll take a quick break at 10, come back for the direct marketing of organic seed in Washington State, and then another break followed by managing disease and specialty seed production in Washington. We really hope that you can stick around for the closing ceremony and feedback session. It helps us have a better understanding of how to make these events relevant and engaging, especially given this online format. So we really value your feedback and hope that you can stick around for that closing ceremony. After the closing ceremony, there's also going to be a BIPOC affinity space that's hosted by Melanie Edwards. So there is still time to sign up if you are interested in being a part of that session. I know the link is going to be dropped in the chat as well. So if you have any interest in networking with other BIPOC folks in this session, please sign up. It's going to be an awesome session with Melanie. And I'm going to give it over to Rebecca to talk a little bit about the networking space and the Seed Commons just briefly here.
Thanks, Abba. Hey, y'all. Rebecca Kordanowski-Woods of Organic Seed Alliance. Just wanted to take a moment to make a plug for the Organic Seed Commons. It is the social networking site that we have been curating. We have over 2,000 folks and a growing community of people who are interested in seed, tending seed, growing seed, stewarding their ancestral seeds. It's a really cool space for us to be able to connect outside of events like these, and to reach people all around the world. So I will put the link in the chat, and we do have a space that is specific to this event that you are welcome to join, and keep any of the conversations going that are started here today. Thanks, Abba.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. And thanks for being our tech wizard and making sure we're on track and on message here. Another just brief thing before we get started. We do value your feedback. Please make sure that you take a moment before you leave the event or later today to let us know your thoughts, how we can make this event more relevant and applicable to you. It's really, really important for our work. We want to make sure that this means something and it is valuable to you. So I'm going to stop share and we're going to take a beat. Let's get settled here. Welcome, everybody. It's such a beautiful day here on the Olympic Peninsula, and I'm looking out my window at a ferry coming in from the Organic Seed Alliance offices, and it's such an amazing day. If you haven't seen the mountains, please take a moment at some point to check them out because they are popping today. One of the mornings I'm really grateful to live on the peninsula. And I'm really excited about this session. We're going to move now into the Let's Talk About Seed Contracting session. Today we have Aaron Verardi of High Mowing, Brian Campbell of Uprising Seeds, and Sarah Klieger of Adaptive Seeds. As I mentioned, Ms. Benita Adib is not able to make it here today, unfortunately, but I do want to make a space for Michaela Colley to share some information about the opportunities that Benita has wanted to share during the session. And Mick, I'm not sure if you want to do that now or after we're done here, but I'll leave it up to you.
I'll let you introduce the other speakers and let it get going, and then I can just say a few words about contract opportunities and who Ojama is.
Awesome. Great. So I'm going to start with Aaron Verardi and just invite you to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, introduce High Mowing, and talk a little bit about your experience with seed contracting. And we're going to do a round of intros for each of the speakers, move into a discussion, and then head into breakout rooms so you can make a personal connection with these folks. And then we'll come back together for some wrap up. So without further ado, Aaron, go ahead, take it away.
All right, and just to clarify, I should go through all the talking points that we talked about before now?
Yeah, go for it.
Just want to make sure I got the format. Hi, everybody. As stated, my name is Aaron Verardi. I work for High Mowing Organic Seeds. I use he, him pronouns, and I live on Whidbey Island, which is the land of the Snohomish and Lower Skagit people. So I have been working for High Mowing for a couple of years. Before that, had been growing vegetables and vegetable seeds for about a decade. So that's where I got my start in the contracting world. Growing for High Mowing, but also folks like Sarah and Adaptive and Brian at Uprising. And so High Mowing, we are a 100% organic vegetable seed company, mostly vegetables, some flowers and herbs and cover crop as well. And part of my job there is as a contract production specialist, working with my colleague, Maggie, who has really stewarded the program for the last few years. And the other part of my job is being a commercial grower representative for farmers in Canada and California. So I kind of get to see the production and procurement side of it, and then also the sales side of it to farmers. So it's kind of full spectrum. That's pretty cool. As stated, we had done contracting myself for a while and learned a few things that we wanted to share some of with all of you. One of the questions we wanted to address was, for the folks who haven't been growing seed on contract, what do you wish you knew when you started contracting? A lot of it is actually now put in a book, The Organic Seed Grower by Dr. John Navazio, which is basically a textbook of how to grow a bunch of different seeds. But aside from cultural information like that, like yield data is really helpful. It's also super variable. Farming is always variable, but seed yields can, like the same variety from year to year, can also be really variable. So it's good to know, but not like a super hard number you can always count on. Different pest susceptibilities would have also been nice. Knowing what birds like which crops in my area, birds seem to be the major pest. Particular habits of certain varieties would also be nice. Like, does this seed bolt in an upright fashion? Does it lay on the ground? Things like that. And then we also wanted to address some of the top mistakes that folks new to contracting might make. And in my case, since I was growing vegetables as well as seeds, the major mistake I made enough times until I finally learned was market farming is a very fast pace. It feels rather hectic. You know, you're seeding, you're planting, you're harvesting, you're irrigating, like it's somewhat frantic. Whereas the seed crop lifespan, you know, you plant it, you water it, you weed it, but it's pretty mellow up until the very crucial times of, you know, harvesting, processing. And so I would get distracted in the hectic pace of fresh veg and then realize, oh no, like the birds are eating my pak choi seed. I better get after that. Another, I don't know if it's a mistake that new growers make, but just something I think folks should be aware of. Like, it's always okay to ask for as much money as you need for a crop. Like, I always ask for more. And from most companies, High Mowing and others, they're usually able to entertain the notion to see if it pencils out, because, you know, we can't do this without farmers growing the seed. So we want it to work for everybody. And there's other things that'd be nice to know before you get into it. Like, is the crop you're thinking about a good seed producer in your area? Like, it might produce a good crop of vegetables, but is it gonna yield enough seed in your area to make it commercially viable? Yeah, other challenges, you know, not planting enough seed to meet your contract, or planting way too much and having an overage that the company can't buy, which gets back to the yield data need. And then, yeah, just timing can be really crucial too. Like, it's easy to let crops go too long and then they start to shatter and you lose seed all over the ground. So just knowing the crops you're working with and when the optimal time to cut them is. So this is more of a like technical, less on the business end of it, but more on the production, but also just things that are good to think about. And as far as when to reach out to companies you're interested in contracting with, I'd say anytime is a good time. And cold calls or emails are great. I get a bunch of emails from folks we've never heard from before, just asking about growing seed for us. But really, we start to think about contracting for the next year in November and December. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that for now, but I am really excited to continue the discussion later on. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. And I posted in the chat the Organic Seed Growers Manual that also features our Michaela Colley. Wonderful to see that shout out. I'm gonna pass the mic to Brian Campbell, or sorry, to Sarah Klieger of Adaptive Seeds. I just want to say Sarah's an all-star because I literally connected with her yesterday and was like, yeah, just come on into the session. Go, it'll be fine. It'll be great. And I just really appreciate you being willing. So welcome, Sarah, and we'll let you share screen and give a quick hello to everybody.
Cool. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I'm excited to be able to join you, and especially on such a last minute basis. I made a few slides just to keep me on track. And so, yeah, I'm Sarah from Adaptive Seeds. And there's my contact info if people want to reach out. Just a little bit of background about us. We're founded in 2009 by myself and my partner, Andrew. We are in Sweet Home, Oregon. That's Kalapuya lands. In 2022, we sold about 600 varieties, and we produce like 3 to 4 acres of seed each year. Our whole Adaptive Seeds, well, there's 6 of us. 2 full-time and 1 part-time crew member. I guess it's 6.5, and 2 full-time admin. We do have a crew member position open. If anybody wants to come work with us, please hit me up. And my roles at Adaptive Seeds are I manage our crops from planting through threshing. I coordinate with contract growers. I manage the finances and have been doing marketing recently. At Adaptive Seeds, one of our main values is locally and regionally adapted varieties. And we see that as the foundation of durable local food systems that we're helping to create. And so we have a few seed stewardship priorities that are listed there, but I just want to call out that we are trying hard to increase the availability of certified organic open pollinated seed. And there's a few other things that we're passionate about as well, but we do try to have weird varieties. And so as the local and regional seed, we only work with certified organic growers in Oregon and Washington. Last year, we contracted with 12 growers. We currently have 3 or 4 growers that we're working with in Washington. There's a couple that aren't on this map, unfortunately. But contract growers that work with us produce anywhere from 1 to 25 crops per year. And so in 2022, of the 600-ish varieties that we sold, 125 of them were contracted seed. But as a total of our sales, it was a more significant number. We try really hard to have our more popular varieties be in contracts, just so that we can increase the size of those contracts. So we've been contracting or purchasing about 40 to 70 crops per year. Our goal is that each seed lot will last about 3 years, and most of our contracts are between $300 and $3,000. In 2021, we purchased 1,400 total pounds of seed, which sounds like a lot, but a lot of that was dry beans, 3 varieties. We had a grower who just blew up a few varieties, and I just found out this week that she's not going to be doing it this year. So if anybody wants to grow a lot of beans, please get in touch. And yeah, each year we spend about $50,000 in buying in seed or contracts. One thing that makes us a little bit different from a lot of the other smaller seed companies is that we sell larger packets and small bulk quantity in addition to the garden size packets. So this helps us offer larger contracts to growers. I think otherwise, you know, we would be in the like 5 pounds of kale range. This past year, we had a contract that was for 15 pounds for this variety of kale. And the grower told us that they grew closer to 40, which was way more than we could take, but we agreed to 20 pounds, and are, you know, we're able to add larger packet sizes to try and move that, because we do want to support growers and reward them for successful crops, though there is a limit. And sometimes we buy overage and just donate it. We donate a lot of seeds to the Cooperative Gardens Commission that Ms. Bonita mentioned yesterday morning. And I've never grown on contract for other seed companies, but a growing portion of our sales is to other seed companies, mostly through our website, through those bulk packages that we have available. And I just want to sort of echo some of the things that Aaron said. We want seed production to be profitable for our growers. And so just want to reiterate that the price offered for a contract is a starting point for a conversation. We do try to pay more than most other seed companies, but I don't actually know what that is most of the time. So we do offer planting dates and yield data from our records to aid in crop planning when we have it. And we're going to start asking growers to provide that when they turn in the crops, because it's a thing that we're asked over and over again, especially with new growers. We do also pay extra for stock selection and a bonus for seed that germs above 90% if a lot is turned in on time, and we'd like to get seed lots in by mid-October. And new for 2023 is we're going to start offering a bonus for seed that is turned and ready to sell. So hopefully that helps some more clean seed. And then lastly, if the seed is turned in on time, we definitely will pay before the end of the calendar year. We've gotten a lot of feedback from growers about that timeline being important. So the top mistakes that people make when contracting is, from my perspective, I think overcommitting, whether that's about like time management or skill set. And that's something that I do chronically as a human, so I get it. Not weeding the crop prior to harvest is a thing that has ruined a couple of seed crops recently. Weed seeds get in there and it's impossible to remove without, you know, countless hours with tweezer. That's a good way to ruin a crop. So a good rule is to weed thoroughly 2 weeks before harvest if you haven't stayed on top of it. Another issue is threshing too aggressively. That's another thing that I do probably more often than I should. It can destroy seed. It also makes it harder to clean. So, and then lastly, not knowing how or being willing to clean the seed. So I work with a lot of brand new seed growers. I offer really a lot of coaching. And I think the cleaning the seed takes a lot of skill and it takes some special equipment, but, and I acknowledge that there's a learning curve, but if I get seed that's like only been threshed or is full of droppings or weed seeds, then I'm probably less likely to want to offer a contract to that grower in the future. So yeah, that's all I've got. Happy to talk more later.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for your succinct points and for all the wisdom that you just brought there. That's awesome. I see some questions coming in, but I'm going to save them for a little later and invite Brian Campbell to come on and talk a little bit about uprising seeds.
So I'm just going to share. I didn't prepare slides, but my name is Brian. My pronouns are he, him. And we are, like Sarah and Andrea at Adaptive, a farm-based seed business in Bellingham, Washington, based in and around Bellingham, traditionally Lummi and Nooksack territory. I resonated with a lot of what we just heard from Sarah. We consider them kind of siblings to the South in that we came to the work through, I think, similar channels and ideas and at a similar time. We've been in business as a seed company since 2007, so about 15 years. And that grew out of what was prior a fresh market vegetable operation that my partner Christine and I ran. We were fortunate as growers in our area to have a real wealth of resources in organic seed production, which I think was kind of unusual and unique to the Pacific Northwest at the time, primarily centered around what became the Seed Alliance in Port Townsend. And we saw, as young growers, an opportunity in seed work to sort of create systems of like a seed economy that paralleled what we saw happening in the early 2000s as growers in the farm to table movement, and sort of a increasing awareness and interest in local foods, and thought to ourselves, why isn't that happening in seeds? And in a lot of ways, our beginnings as Uprising Seeds was to address those same issues of, you know, an interest in creating local, regional systems around seeds that kind of paralleled that. We saw our company as an opportunity to create community and address social justice in food and farming on a local level. And that's sort of how we got interested in this work. We had a transition period of several years where we both grew for fresh market and seeds, and quickly realized that was unsustainable, in that we really couldn't do both well. And so we chose to go with the develop our interest in seeds and make that our full-time thing. We maintain a catalog of about 450-ish varieties. I'm going to stop sharing the screen just because it's really distracting me. And our numbers are similar to what you saw from Sarah. I would say we produce probably 80% of the varieties in our catalog on farm. We maintain a pretty small community of growers in the Pacific Northwest that we contract with. I would say when we were a very young company, we sort of saw our business as an opportunity to be a seed equivalent of sort of a regional seed hub, in that we worked with primarily growers that had a lot of experience in growing seeds, maybe had varieties that they had a long-term relationship with. There was also several breeders in the Pacific Northwest that were part of our community of friends in seed work that we sort of saw our business as a retail outlet to highlight their work, and increasingly our work as we began to produce more seed. We've also, maybe our position is unique on this panel in that we've always had a contracting component with other seed companies as part of our business. And we developed that very early on, primarily because our own seed sales for some varieties that we were really interested in working with didn't really generate enough volume to produce on the level that we wanted to work with these varieties on. So contracting with other companies provided an outlet for us to grow on a larger scale. And in a lot of cases, there's lots of advantageous reasons to, from breeding perspectives and production perspectives, to work with seeds on a larger scale than we actually had sort of sales channels for through our seed business. I think there's a tendency as our business grows to get away from that, or maybe there's not a tendency, it's easy as a business grows to get away from a sort of horizontal system of farmers as seed producers and the seed company as being sort of the vehicle to highlight that work. And I think that's something that I'm interested in discussing as an idea further in maybe a breakout session, but it's also something that I would consider, you know, in looking at the questions that we were asked to consider, like biggest mistakes that we've made. I think sort of a transactional approach to seed growing, I think is maybe one of those, in that there's been largely sort of a deference of quote unquote expertise to seed companies. And we'd really like to see that reclaimed by the farmers that are working with the seed. And as our business develops, I'm much more interested in contracting with growers who have sort of created their own long-term relationships with varieties, where rather than us, you know, sending stock seed and maintaining stock seed and asking people what to grow for us, I'm much more interested in hearing about what people are working on in their own farms and in their own seed work, and having them bring that to us rather than us, bring our interests to farmers. And I'd say, as Aaron mentioned, every year we get lots of email inquiries from people who I'm imagining are the type of people who are probably in this session right now, wondering how to get a foot into the contracting world and like how that process starts. And the tone of those emails are often kind of with that same deference of, we're the experts, and do you Uprising Seeds have any varieties that you're looking to source? And I've got room for a Brassica rapa and maybe a beet. And my answer is usually, what are you working on as a farm? What are your seed interests? What's a project that you're excited about right now? And tell me about that. And I think that's a great place to start in contracting, is just starting to work with seeds on a commercial scale. Maybe if you're a vegetable grower for a crop that's really important to you in your produce production, and just sort of become familiar with varieties and the process and the cycles and how that incorporates into your farming work, and then bring that to the table. And that to us is much more interesting than, I have space for XYZ and am willing to grow whatever you want to send us. I would say as a model for contracting, something that has really inspired us was a relationship we formerly, less so now, had with Nash's farm out in Sequim. And what I liked about that was that Nash and his crew were maintaining varieties that were relevant to their farm production. And so they had these intimate relationships with the seeds that they were growing. And their first and foremost priority was to produce seeds that were excellent for their fresh market growing system, which was where their primary income came from. And while they did develop a pretty big seed component of their business, I think its roots were based in stewarding varieties on farm. And so we knew when we worked with him that those were seeds adapted to our area, adapted to production systems, and that really were sort of farm up and not top down type relationships. So I'd say that is probably our biggest interest in contracting. Another, if we want to talk about just a couple mistakes or pitfalls of getting started in seed production, I would say there has been a proliferation in the last 10 years of lots of small seed companies. And I think consequently, there have been a proliferation of small seed contracts, companies that need a little bit of something. And I think it takes, while those are often attractive to new growers to sort of get a foot in the door of seed contracting, I think it's also challenging in that the economics of small lots, unless it was really a value of experience that you're hoping to get out of it. I would echo that seed work operates on a very different scale as produce work. And I think that there's a lot of financial pressure to prioritize crops that the payout is very quick. So in the vegetable production season, harvesting a crop that you're going to get paid for at market that weekend versus harvesting a crop that you're going to get paid 6 months from now, it's often hard to prioritize the long-term work that needs to happen when the income is kind of deferred until the end of the season, or sometimes in the case of biennials, the end of a second season. I'd say that is a potential pitfall. And also mentioned earlier was either overproducing or underproducing for contracts and how to gauge that. I don't put a lot of stock in yield data just because it is so variable from year to year for us that it's just impossible to predict. And my strategy is always to overplant and kind of over clean. I think it's easy to try to just barely hit your targets and then not have the leeway to be very aggressive in the cleaning process and be willing to lose a lot of seed. And I think if you're looking from a time management work perspective, it's always easier to grow more seed than it is to and do a good job than it is to grow like a small amount and just try to hit your target. And a lot of times there's wiggle room, either we've found with companies buying overage that year or in subsequent years if they continue to sell that variety. Yeah, so I would say that our approach as a seed company for the contract work we do with other companies like High Mowing this year and historically Fedco and Seed Savers Exchange, we approach it in a way that I would like to see more in the seed industry, where we have long standing relationships with seed varieties that we've produced and feel like we produce well and have really gotten to know. And we've created a catalog of seeds that we sort of offer to seed companies rather than being offered contracts. We've sort of have established seed varieties that we sort of grow on spec and offer them around to seed companies. And that's been really successful. And as I described in the way we like to work with growers, that's more the model that works for us in the seed system, and more kind of what we're looking for out of growers is sort of a repertoire of varieties that you're familiar with and produce well. So maybe that's a good place for me to stop.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, there were so many good nuggets in that last little bit. I didn't want to cut you off, but so many good thoughts and lots of synergy between everyone shared here. I want to give Aaron and Sarah and Brian the chance to have a sort of fishbowl discussion, as it were, about sort of shifting the dynamics of contracting and approaching, and we'll move into breakout rooms after that. But I don't know if there are any thoughts that were inspired or things that you want to add, Aaron or Sarah, or ask of each other before we get into that.
I'll just say that I also think it's a great model. High Mowing specifically, we're providing seed to a lot of commercial growers on fairly large volumes, with more of the like production traits emphasized, but we do also offer a handful of varieties that have been either bred by farmer breeders or stewarded by, and it's for me a very enriching relationship, because I've known a lot of these folks for years and been growing their varieties myself. And yeah, it's great to see farmers and seed growers take agency and stewardship of the crops that they and their neighbors rely on. So yeah, for us it's kind of a patchwork, but it's definitely one of the more fulfilling aspects.
Awesome. Sarah, anything you want to add?
There it is. No, not so much.
Okay, we're gonna give everybody a chance to hop into a breakout room here. I'm just creating them. And so, hey, welcome back, everybody. I hope that didn't cut off somebody's very important point they were in the middle of making. But I know we're short on time, so if everybody, anybody wants to put their contact information in the chat so that you can continue to have these conversations, that would be fantastic. Any kind of popcorn takeaways from the breakout rooms that you want to share before we wrap up the session? Feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourselves. All right. Well, no one wants to share. I'll pass it to Michaela to provide some closing thoughts about Southern exposure seed opportunities. I heard in Sarah's presentation an offer to sell to contract for beans. So get in touch for bean work. See Sarah. I just appreciate all of the speakers for coming and for sharing their wisdom and for making this a part of their lives. We're going to take a break in just a few minutes, unless anybody has some closing thoughts, Brian or Sarah or Aaron, before we pass it to Mick for some closing ideas here. The humble geniuses stay quiet.
I just want to thank everyone again for coming. It was nice talking with you all, and please do get in touch if you're interested in growing seeds or you even just want to learn about and talk seeds, because it's my favorite thing to do.
Awesome. Sarah, Brian, any thoughts? No.
I also encourage people just to reach out, and if this work is about anything, I feel like it should be about creating community, and we have a very open relationship with our community of growers and seed growers and other seed companies, and really, as time goes forward, are looking to build our business relationships as super collaborative and sort of pro community development around seeds and local agriculture and farming. So that's really where our interests lie.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. All right, Mick, if you want to just give a little shout out, let us know about some opportunities coming up and how we can plug in with Southern Exposure Seeds. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Abba. Thank you all for being here. We're really blessed to be living in a state that is really is highly conducive to growing quality seed of a wide diversity of seed crops, and to have regional seed companies like Adaptive and Uprising based here in the region. This is also a region where most seed companies nationally also contract with growers. So we have, 3 companies that are here with us today, and many that were not able to make it, but are still there as a resource. Bonita Adib from Ujamaa Farming Cooperative Alliance spoke yesterday morning about the Ujamaa program, and I shared a link in the chat for the Ujamaa Farming Cooperative Alliance. It is an alliance of growers that operate under a nonprofit umbrella, and it's really an effort to diversify the population, the community of organic seed growers, and also create networks for preserving and sharing culturally significant seed. So Ujamaa does sell seed, and they now have a seed company with an offering of about 240 different seeds available. I did put the link in the chat where you can go buy Ujamaa seeds, but Ujamaa is also an alliance for Black and brown farmers to learn how to grow seed, find economic pathways to support their seed production. And so in that, they also work with a number of other seed companies to help connect those growers with companies to contract with. And I believe several of the companies that are on this panel today also work with Ujamaa directly. So you can learn more about their program. I'll put Bonita's contact information into the chat. And then we also have a couple of other companies that said they regretted not being able to come, but have contract opportunities as well. Bonita mentioned that there's a pretty long list of crops still available from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, and I'll drop the link to Ken Bazilla's email address from Southern Exposure. He's the person that manages the contracting, so do consider reaching out directly to them. And then also Bonita, Bonita Nichols from Johnny Seeds is also based here in Washington State. And she said, feel free to share her contacts. I'll put that in the chat as well. Just some advice that, every company that you work with is going to be a little different flavor, a little different personality, a little different scale and how they work with growers. And I think when you're getting started, it's helpful to maybe contract with a few different people and find where that relationship clicks and where your style of farming, your style of communication, your style of working in community has a good fit. So with that, I'll drop those links in the chat. Anna, did you want to mention anything else or share? I know you've supported a grower being able to enter into seed production this year. Not to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to add anything, you're welcome it.
No, well, thank you so much. And actually, I'm so happy to be here with Aaron and everyone, all other people talking about contracting. Yes, as part of the education program that OSA have, we work closely with advanced seed producers, which English is not their first language, Spanish speaker farmers, because it's not a secret for anyone that a big majority of the agriculture in this country is made by Hispanic farmers. So yes, past year we were able to secure a contract with a buyer in Hawaii. And sincerely, I would like to be in contact with Aaron and with the people that you put in the chat, just to see how we can keep supporting Nelida from Viva Farms, but also to expand and not only focus only with Nelida, but we know here in Washington State and in California, maybe in Oregon, I don't have good contacts in Oregon, but definitely California and Washington, we really want to expand the people that we work closely and that we can support them, like really getting into the contracting for seed production.
Samana, thank you. And thanks, Mick. And I think that there's a huge recognition that this space is really important, the connections and how to develop these relationships, understanding yourself, your particular flavor, how you're going to mix well with others, what your goals are, understanding yourself really. And Rebecca and I were just joking that it's kind of like dating, it's a little bit like, is this going to work for me? Is it going to work for you? What do you need? What are we looking for here? So if anybody who's inclined wants to develop a dating app for seed contracting, this is your opportunity. Go for it. And with that, I know we're a few minutes over, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back at the 15-minute mark, and we'll hear from Brian Campbell again and Nathaniel Talbot as well. Anna Galvis will be facilitating. And I just want to thank our speakers once again, Aaron Verity, Brian Campbell, and Sarah Klieger. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and lessons learned. And everybody, please feel free to get in contact with them and continue the conversation. So we'll see you back here at 10:15. Thanks, everybody.